Hello everyone, welcome back. No, it's been a while. Kinda went through finals week and ended up getting a huge cold, but I'm back. I'm feeling better. And today we got a video, and I kind of wanted to describe how to get more kills efficiently. Not really at top tier, but more or less just in general. I kind of used the F4E and the Hunter F6 in this video, and that was all really it. I only have a couple games for you and honestly a couple clips, and I also wanted to try and get out a video for you guys talking about the new event vehicle as the new update came out recently. So right here we ended up wasting a missile on this MiG-23, but he's very slow and I just kind of shot him broadside. And with the F4E, because it's got a gal, you can kind of just hold down and wait for somebody to cross nose. And yeah, you really don't have to do much with these top tier weapons that shoot really fast. You kind of just have to wait for the moment where they end up crossing you. We see that another F4E J, the Japanese variant, is pushing us, so I kind of just lock him up and shoot a dogfight aim 7 at him, and it tracks because we're really close to him. Shoot a burst at the J7, but he moves out of the way. So I immediately try and start turning around for him, and my teammates do the same. I realize that there's nobody behind us, so I'm kind of just trying to chase down this guy. But at the same time, I know my teammates are going for him, so I kind of just break off. And basically, the way to get kills more efficiently is to try and use as little ammo in your missiles and guns as possible, but also target prioritization is really big. So I see that this MiG-21 tries to attack us, but then the J7 starts to break off. I don't really have a good time to shoot at him, but now both of them are trying to attack this other J7E on our team. So I'm just going to engage them now while they're distracted. The J7 crashes into ours, and then I just try and spray at that MiG-21, make sure I don't crash into my teammate. But of course I ended up missing those shots because he was dodging effectively. And now I have all the enemies that I can visibly see in front of me, so I can kind of just pick and choose who I want to engage. I see that this J7 is getting close, so I go over and try and spray a few rounds. I think those end up hitting. Yep, they collide into him perfectly because he didn't really move out of the way. And on to the next game. So I start off playing the F4E kind of really high altitude, especially in a down tier because of moments like this, where I can kind of just find people on the contrails and then basically just lock them up at around like 3 miles or like around, I'd say like 4 to 5 kilometers, because as I've said previously in other videos, after around like 4 miles, especially if people are coming close to you, like rapidly, the missile's gonna have very like easy time just going through chaff because you're already so close. So even though a person might be chaffing at this range and it looks like your radar has actually lost them, if you just keep holding the lock that it had on that chaff, the original target that you locked was that vehicle, then the aim 7 will track straight into the target anyways because it realizes that it is not chaff. So that's why sparrows are kind of just lethal, even though a lot of people don't actually understand that. Most people think that afterwards the chaff at that distance would actually break off the lock so they unlock and try and engage again. But really, if you just hold that lock, it'll guide straight into the target. Speaking of like right now. See, even though the chaff was actually taking off my radar from that target, it still guided into the J7 perfectly fine because we were really close range. Now, there was a bunch of people right there, and I really didn't want to engage immediately, especially with my teammates being spread out by this. And the F5 is just getting chased by 2 people, actually 3 at this point. The J7 is also trying to attack this F5, but he is going to bomb, so he's not really going to turn back immediately, even though I try and text to him right here to try and turn around if he can, because if he can't and he just gets clapped, then once again we have 1 down to the teammate. J7 noticed me and starts turning around. So I just shoot a little burst here, but he maneuvers a little bit down and then almost just hit him. I see that my F5's going for him, so I immediately think that he's just going to get him. And the J7 ends up crashing, which is kind of crazy. Now, further into the match, I end up catching up to these people and I try and attack this F5 with the teammate that is now behind me as well. Now, an F5 is a really hard opponent for an F4E, but I take him into the dogfight anyways because he's the only one in the area and I have a teammate following me. And I'm also really low fuel. So the F4 actually performs really well with low fuel, but I also still have like 5 missiles on me, so I'm still kind of heavy. But this is also sadly one of my, well, not sadly, but this is also one of my most played planes, so I can kind of judge where I'm at on the fuel. And I realized that this F5 is actually really slow, so I kind of just pull over his nose and he realizes that he can't really take the shot, so he never ends up shooting there. And then I just kind of wrap around, drop flaps so I can turn around easier and end up falling on top of him. Now, the ACM mode on the Phantom, if you're high enough, actually can do some really wacky stuff. So even though I'm full face down here, I ended up locking the guy. And the missile starts to track, but then it gets closer and closer to the ground, so it ends up losing lock even though he did chaff there. And I shoot a little burst at the guy and end up getting a hit, which is not good because now I'm at a disadvantage and I might overshoot him here. But instead he kind of pulls up. And although the F5 is kind of great in the dogfight, its energy maintenance, especially when it's really slow like that and you pull up afterwards, it's not going to help it out. So I end up taking off his wing. We have another MiG-21 that engaged me afterwards. He tries shooting a missile in the merge because there are 60Ms. So I kind of anticipated that. A lot of people try and do that. And I'm at extremely low fuel at this point. So I'm going to be honest, because this MiG-21 took this fight, there's no chance in the world that he beats me here because I am down to a minute of fuel and I have no more Sparrows. So I'm actually a really light airframe compared to this MiG-21 who just took off. But I was really low ammo, so I kind of just made that shot count and ended up killing the last guy of the game and ended off with 7 kills. Now, I think the next couple of games that we have are just the Hunter clips, and I ended up not really getting very many good clips with the Hunter because with running with no flares and stuff kind of is pretty difficult to get really good games in it now, but every once in a while I'd get a good game. However, I think in one of the latest updates they ended up changing the Defa cannons and they sound really beefy now. As you can see, I was going for that T2, saw that the F100 was kind of breaking off and just went for him immediately. And on to another game, I end up seeing another T2, shoot just a tiny little burst, almost get clapped by my teammates who are shooting at that guy. And then I end up shooting a burst at this T2 and end up getting both of them over time. And that's really all you need to do to get like kills efficiently, is you can just shoot a little burst at people, especially with missiles that, you know, are at probably around like 10.0 and above. Most missiles wind up one-tapping your plane, and a lot of times if you can shoot missiles effectively, especially like these SRAMs, at the ranges that you have to shoot the SRAMs in general, most times you're right behind the dude and you have to shoot them within like a mile range, sometimes even less because they're going really fast. So by the time that you already shoot these things, people don't really notice them, and that's why I thought it was a really good example. A lot of the times that you are playing with these vehicles, target acquisition and kind of just choosing your targets and figuring out who you need to kill first is the big thing on how to kill people very quickly. Like, especially for example, this Hunter here, I thought that that missile would track and it ended up tracking. And at the same time, that Hunter, I'm pretty sure, I think that is the Hungarian one, the Hungarian variant, which has very lethal missiles, even more lethal than mine. I think they have AIM-9Js and flares. So if you can kind of get these people that have really good planes off guard, or you try and target them before targeting other vehicles, like for say something without flares, like an F4C or something really easy to kill and is kind of hard to play, then most of the time your team will end up winning the game and you can kind of focus on easier targets afterwards. So the big thing is really just picking and choosing people that are kind of uh, honestly dealing with your teammates, and covering your teammates can be a big help with your overall like kill maintenance, because if you kind of attack people that are all attacking your teammates, most of the time they're not going to end up looking behind them, and at the same time you can kind of just pick them off. Like I've seen and I've done a lot of times, there will just be like four people chasing one dude, and you can kind of, especially at top tier, just ripple fire a whole bunch of missiles at these people, and they're not even going to notice until the last second. Right here, I thought that that missile could track, but at the same time, that is a really hard shot. I'm pretty sure R-73s would even struggle hitting that, so I ended up not firing the SRAM. This MiG-21 that I end up chasing is the last dude that I'm going to end up killing. Um, he ends up pulling up right here when he's chasing my teammate, and because I'm already behind him and this MiG-21 has no flares, this SRAM tracks perfectly into him. And this last MiG-19, as much as I could wish I had good aim, I do not. I end up missing him completely. And that's really all I have for you today. I appreciate all the love lately, and I'll see you in the next one.